Yo, what is up, everybody? Let's go back again with our final chapter from the story The Cave, written by Old School Horror. Remember to check out the links in the description, show love to the author, like, comment, and subscribe. Chapter 7. His heart almost stopped from fear as he fell. Tom rolled in the air and then hit the water below. He was waiting to feel his head or spine crack after hitting the rocky bottom. But none of that happened. The water was deep enough, so he survived the fall. His ears, mouth, and nose filled with the disgusting liquid, but he had no time to react. He had to get out of here. Tom got to the surface and swam in one random direction. In a few seconds, he reached the edge of the pond. The flashlight was still in his hand. The fright he felt when falling made him clutch it with all of his strength. He was lucky for buying a waterproof flashlight. He would have been dead now without a light source. After he crawled out of the pool of foul water, he threw up. There was not much coming up from his stomach, but it had to come out. Now, combining with the bitter taste of bile, it was much worse. He would have sold his car for a drop of water now. The retching subsided, and he stood upright to inspect the place. It was a vast hall again. The air was barely breathable. He looked up at the waterfall. It was about 30 feet high. The spider was long gone, or at least he couldn't see it. It might have retreated, or maybe it was searching for a way to him again. It was a sneaky bastard. Maybe it was the same one who had taken Alex. Walking around the pond, he saw that the flow of water continued upwards. Alright, he thought, more following to do. The place was deserted, and he knew that it was strange. Until now, almost every part of the cave was filled with spiders, but not this. What is keeping them from falling in this place, just like the others? As he was following the stream of water, which was a little wider than before, he shone his light on the column-like object to his left. It was a strange formation. Sharp rock formations were protruding in all directions from it, seemingly defying gravity. He began walking in its direction. Maybe it was some special place for these damn spiders. The ground was barren. No spiders, no eggs, only mud and rocks. Tom walked carefully, not to make any unnecessary sounds. He did not want to wake up anything that might lurk here. There's no way, he thought, that this place is empty. Something has to be here. He stopped and listened. He felt his own heartbeat, but there was something else as well. A faint murmur was permeating the air. It was constant, with a regular cadence to it, like the sound made by a slumbering beast in the darkness of a forest. Tom went closer to the strange formation and saw that it was actually thicker at the bottom. Curved, sharp protrusions of several feet were all over it. What the hell is this? He asked himself. Some kind of shrine to the almighty spider god? Near the bottom of the formation, he saw some bag-like things hanging from the protrusions. Going closer, he hit something on the floor. Tom looked down, saw bones again. He couldn't determine if they were human bones or not. So, as he was approaching the bottom of the formation, he saw a heap of bones which was surrounding it. Damn, he thought, this is bad. I have to get out of here. Then, he noticed that the murmur he had heard before got a little louder. It was as if the cave itself was a living and breathing thing. Tom heard a whimper. It was coming from somewhere nearby. First, he couldn't recognize the sound, but his muscles tightened at the strange sound. The whimper came again. He looked around with the flashlight to determine where it came from. The strange bags, he thought, then looked at them more closely. It seemed to him that they were made of spider silk, or maybe something was wrapped up with the spider silk. They had many strange shapes, but one of them was suspicious. It resembled the shape of a child. Oh no, he thought, as a realization dawned on him. Oh God, no. He rushed to the thing which was hanging at about 4 or 5 feet above the ground on a thread of spiderweb. Tom illuminated the object, saw that indeed it is a child beneath the many layers of sticky web. He put down the flashlight and reached up with a racing heart towards the thing which had all the chances in the world of being his son. He grabbed it with both hands and pulled gently. The web extended, but then snapped. Tom took up the flashlight again and cleared away the webs from the child's face. Tom recognized his son. His face was pale and his lips were turning blue. Alex, can you hear me? No answer came for a few seconds, but then the child whimpered again. His eyes opened a bit, but couldn't open fully. Now, Tom understood that Alex must have been injected by some paralyzing agent by the spider which took him. He knew that time is of the essence now. His son's life was ironically hanging by a thread now. He began thinking. His brain was in overdrive now. Tom felt an overwhelming exhilaration because of finding his son, but the fact that Alex was barely alive and he was deep in this spider-filled cave made him feel hopeless. The only thing which came to his mind was that he had to follow the flowing water. Going back was impossible. Tom turned to go, but then the murmur turned louder. He stopped and he felt cold chills in his bones. There was something here, something much worse than anything he had seen so far. Snapping and clicking sounds filled the darkness of the cave. They were coming from behind them, from the direction of the odd formation. He looked back and saw in horror that the thing was moving. The appendages were probing the air. They were searching. Tom pointed his light toward the top of the formation and saw that there too, limbs were moving like long spider legs. He looked at its bottom again and almost screamed in horror. An eye had opened up on this thing. It was as if it just woke up from a long slumber. Several other eyes opened up on the body of the nameless horror, which was at least 100 feet tall. The appendages began moving more and more. The thing growled. It echoed through the chamber several times. It was like a call which must have been heard by all of the cave's denizens. Tom didn't wait around anymore. He took off, following the stream. Holding his dying son to his chest, he heard the millions of spider legs following him. First, the sounds were distant, but after several more growls from the ancient beast, he picked up the pace and were closing in on Tom. He was running as fast as his legs could carry him. Every few seconds, he made sure that he is following the stream. And after a few minutes of running, he saw that the water is flowing again to an opening inside the cave wall. Oh no, he thought. What was waiting for me on the other side again, other than one of these things? It didn't matter, however. With his last remaining energy, he crawled inside the opening and pressed forward with a speed he could only have imagined he ever could reach. The adrenaline was doing its job again. But at least the big ones can reach him here, he thought. Crawling forward with the water deep enough to reach his son, or to reach his jaw, he had to be careful not to drown his son. The tunnel sloped downward again, but it wasn't too steep. He was still hearing the distant sounds made by his pursuers, but then he almost screamed from exultation. A small glimpse of light appeared at the end of the tunnel. Tom then switched off his flashlight for a split second to see if it is just not a hallucination brought on by fatigue. It was not. So he pressed forward with renewed strength. He reached the end, and he could see clearly that the opening in the rock is leading to the outside. The hole, however, was too narrow for him to crawl through. He did another desperate brainstorm, but he could only reach one conclusion. If he pushes his son through, he remains inside. He will surely die, but also would Alex, because nobody will know he is there. Given that the rock was eaten away by many generations by the corrosive stream, it must be looser than the other places. He had to break through. There was enough space for him to turn with feet forward. So he began kicking at the rock, which was just above the narrow hole where the stream was flowing outside. After the first kick, he knew that the rock was loose enough for him to break it. He kicked it again and again. The sounds from the darkness came closer. He could hear them. He could also hear the desperate cries from the horrible monster of the cave. This gave him strength to kick harder, and with the next try, he broke through. Piles of rock were projected outward. He heard the splashes made by the rocks in the water. Earth began falling on him too. It was loose above him too. It filled his eyes and mouth. He didn't care. With a last effort, Tom crawled outside and heard the tunnel cave in after him. He stood up and cleared his eyes and dry mouth as soon as possible. The hole was closed, but one spider still made it through. He stepped on it, crushing the creature under his boot. Then he realized that his son still needed help. His eyelids were still moving, but Tom knew that he was on the brink. So he ran towards the town in order to find help. Tom Hudson saved his son, but the story he told was not believed by anybody. A subsequent aftershock sealed the cave entrance before anybody could take a serious look inside. The spiders which came out of the cave scattered in the nearby wooded area. The unimaginable horror which Tom had witnessed remained sealed deep within the cave. For now. Now, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of